I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to Chai Beauty, where I get to share my thoughts, my dreams, my aspirations, my visions for the future. And guess what? You get to be along for this journey because we are in this together. So in the previous episode, I did say you really should read this chapter. And why I say that is because this chapter really talks about like the fundamentalities of like how we develop as children. What does that 18-month period looks like? What does that 2 to 3 period looks like? What does overindulging mean? Strict parenting. And I had to think about my childhood and say I had a little bit of all of these. Like I had hostile boundaries. Like when I was truly developing, I did feel like my way or else was my parents' told, because my dad is military and then my mom was a teacher, so she very much had little patience for her child, and so that can lead, in the book it says it can lead to people pleasing. And I said for a little, I think I struggled with people pleasing. I don't think I'm as a people pleaser, but as you know, as an adult, if you were a people pleaser as a child, your parents kind of, if they don't know you in your adulthood, they kind of reiterate like you're such a people pleaser. And it's like, no, you just don't know this version of me. As I said, I've reintroduced myself about 3 times. But what I really wanted to talk about was saying that just because you were those things and you had those cracks, we'll call them, or that brokenness, does not mean that you're going to be like that forever. I think the beauty of having age and not dying young is the fact that you can become something new, and it doesn't have to take 5 or 10 years. It just takes you taking the initiative. And for me, I took the initiative at 22 once I graduated from college in 2019 to say I want to become something. I want to no longer let these small traumas continue to hurt me, and no longer allow myself to be stifled as a human being, because I know there's greatness for me. I just don't know how to obtain it yet, and I don't know the skills to attain it, so I need to leave my environment. It's why also I'm very appreciative and I acknowledge those people that can develop in their environment, because it's not easy. It's not easy to be someone and try to change, because people only know you as a one-dimensional person when really you're a complex creature. So I have to ask you guys, how have y'all developed as a person? Like, how are you developing as a person? And who do you want to become? Because your childhood does not define you. How do I want to develop as a person? I think I just want to be better than I was a minute ago. I want to be able to create organization systems. I really struggle with like organization systems. Like admin is not my thing. It's why like when I chose my podcasting, I was like, listen, I can't sit here and edit the video and make it perfect, but I want to show people my authentic self. So what if I just do an introduction and an outro, a little transition, because I really liked it. Sometimes to transition if like the pod is long, and also make it 15 minutes, because I was like, I have things to do, and like sometimes you just want a quick nugget, or like if you're listening to something, you're like, I don't want it to take the entire drive home, and I like to binge watch anything. And so what does that look like, and what did that look like when I created this pod? Those were the questions that I was thinking about, because when I was thinking about manage, I was thinking about me. I also was like, I really love to read. I really love career development books. I love spiritual books. I love fantasy books. I love sci-fi. I love all these things like dark matter from sci-fi. I love that stuff. I genre, period. But that's who I was. And then the developing part was like, if I'm reading these books, how can I implement them practically in my life? Like, so like one of the things that when I first started reading boundaries was like the ability to say that a boundary is just like your skin. Your skin protects you from the bad, and it keeps the blood, the good stuff like your blood, your organs inside you, so you can keep breathing, keep kicking it, and living life, right? And so that was practical to me. Then it talked about in the prior episodes, like what is avoidance, what is conflict, what not conflict, compliance, what is manipulation, what is aggression, what is functional, what is relational, and being like not looking at like what those, like even in the book it asks you how to experience it, but I took it a step further when I read the questions and focused on like how did I do it to others, and trying to figure out in these episodes why did I do those to others, what was going on, and how do I change that behavior, because just because I was developed like this and I know the why behind what I'm doing, the why does not give me reason to continue to act the way that I'm doing. It actually gives me a way to say like, hey, if you want to know, I can tell you, but I no longer want to be that way. I don't want to, just because I had hostile parents or over controlling parents or whatever you're dealing with, I don't want to replicate that. And some things are hard. There are generational curses, but you can take a minute to recognize that and say, my bad, and confess to those friends and that support system you have and say, hey, I'm moving forward. We're going to work on this and make practical steps for that. So me and a friend one time was like, made a vision board, and we're like, we want this, 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 and this, right? And to get those things, how does it look to get those things? So that doesn't mean you do the entire project in a night, so decorating your house in a project. No, that means you buy things little by little. Like, I want my apartment to look a certain way. But let's be honest, there's certain pots and pans that I like, but not in my budget right now. And for me, there was things that I wanted to purchase in my house. Like, I wanted a coffee table, I wanted chairs, I wanted all these things. I didn't get stools yet, but for me, I needed a bed. And anybody that have purchased a bed, and it's super expensive, and I like to travel, so I was like, I need a bed that's not a thick frame that I can build. So I got one of those portable beds that you break down and you keep moving. And guess what? They also have updated the bed. Now it has a headboard, and I really want it. But also I could care less because it's not a need for me, because I'm a person that really could care less about a headboard. But I do understand like the value of a headboard and how it makes like things more essentially. Also, I don't have nightstands because I was like, nightstands are expensive, and I wanted a wardrobe instead of like an actual dresser. Like, it was just all these things. But to say the least, like, I took my time in building my house, and like people now are like, oh, it's like a rusted, and they can tell like I got it from a certain company because I bought everything the same, right? So and then that analogy is like, it takes steps, it takes time, it takes understanding like, this in this season I'm just gonna focus on this, and then the next season I'm just gonna focus on this. And sometimes when I think I'm healed from something's triggered me, and I stop myself from saying what I'm saying, but I'm still hurt about it. So I need to go back to first season when I was dealing with sadness and trauma, and come back to it. Or life can hit you with another traumatizing event, and you thought you were done with your childhood trauma, but now you gotta face your childhood trauma. Like, hey, I worked on this, but it has now come back because this has just happened to me. And so now we have two traumatizing events, and we just need to like talk about it, work on it, and decompress. And is it hard? Absolutely. Is it one of those things where you're like, this really sucks, I don't want to be here, I wish that somebody else could do this work for me? Absolutely. Do you cry a lot? Absolutely. Are you angry? Absolutely. And you're angry because like they're gonna ask you some questions that you feel like are private, and you don't want them to hear about this, or it just makes you feel like when you say it out loud, it just makes you feel selfish or crazy, or it makes you feel like, oh, I'm really like, I've said some things in therapy that I was like, man, I'm really a low down person. Like, that should not have come out of my mouth, but low key, that's how I feel. And I need to pray about that now that I've said it out loud. It's in my heart, and I want to change it. Or my therapist would be like, I hear what you're saying, but maybe we should say it like this so that somebody won't interpret it different, won't interpret it bad, right? And I'm grateful because I can talk about when I was 22, how, let's go even way back. Most of I identify as my beginning of like life and like figuring out like when it talks about separation is at 13. 13 was like a defining moment in my life. There were multiple things that were happening, and it took time. So one of them is like when I was 13, I just wanted to get out of my parents' house. I just wanted freedom. When I was 22, I got the freedom, but I was angry. And why was I angry? I was just angry because like there were so many small T's with like my parents and like me figuring out like what I wanted to do in life, and it's not aligning with what they want me to do. Or they're like, I don't understand why you chose this major, why you're staying in school longer. Like these things, like things just didn't make, because I was so creative and I saw stuff differently than my parents. Like I'm an idealist and my parents are more like strategic planning. They're teachers in the military, so like they need paper, concrete evidence, and I wasn't like that. And so I had to develop differently in life. I had to do things differently in life, and that meant sometimes just not seeing eye to eye with them and arguing with them because that's all I knew. But in the end, it wasn't all I knew. It's all I knew, but when I got older, I learned that I could say it respectfully. I didn't have to make it an argument. I can say, like, I agree to disagree. And also as an adult, I can say, you know what? I hear you, and I'm like, thank you for your suggestion, and move on and do what I need to do, right? Because I built my own relationship with Jesus. I hear him in a different way, and I can interpret it differently because I have my own life experience to play off of. Also, the bills are real. And so that was like 22. 27 is more like I'm in a season of rest. I'm in a season of like people are asking me like, hey, you need to do this, 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 and this. Like I want you to maximize your season. And it's like, that's not what God gave me. Like I'm literally in pause. God's like, you can do your podcasting if you want. You can work on your entrepreneurship that you always wanted to work on and like you went to school for, and you low-key even went for your master's in it. But you also saw like people make money in project management, and you were trying to figure out just different ways to do it, right? And so that was 27. 27 also made me like take account and say whatever happened at 27, I currently made all the decisions to get here. And am I happy with the decisions I made at 27 to where I am now? If I'm not, what can I do today to change the trajectory for 30? Because like people are like, now it's 30 and like you should be wiser. Nah. So I got the advice from somebody that at 20, in your 20s, don't even worry about it. It's 35 when you do a 360 and be like, hey, where am I? What am I doing? Am I happy with my life? Because you basically have to spend 10 years out of your parents' household. You spend 10 years to make an executive decision. You spend over 10 years just being you. And so wherever you are at 35, it's like this is all you have worked towards in your 20s, and now you're seeing the fruits of your labor at 35, right? Or you're seeing like some trajectory. But all that to say, like, wherever you are in your life, you can change. Yes, understand how boundaries are developed, understand how you were made, understand the why behind it, understand what you were doing. But at the end of the day, you can change. So start making those changes. Start being great. Start living in your truth. Start saying you are enough. However, you are still progressing. And that we all love you for who you are. Hello, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this pod. Also, the past pods and all the ones you anticipate in the future. I've loved your comments and your reviews on Spotify. And as we continue to grow, I continue to think of other ideas. So currently, I'm investing in my website. So visit www.chaibeauty.org. There's no space. And you can see how I'm extending our community together because we are a family. So thank you.